Hello and welcome to What's Doing, the space where we dive deep into the evolving world of streaming and original content. I'm Abid, your host, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Zebedee De Costa. We call him Zeb, the head of original content at iQIYI Malaysia. Zeb is a driving force in the streaming landscape, especially with the phenomenal success of Rampas Cintaku, iQIYI's first Malay-language original series that garnered over 100 million views. Under his leadership, iQIYI is set to release an exciting lineup of Malay-language originals, redefining content consumption in the region. In today's episode, we will explore iQIYI's post-pandemic content strategy, the challenges of producing premium drama series, and the future of Malaysian content on a global platform. Thank you so much, Zeb, for coming on What's Doing. It's been a long time coming. We wanted to have this chat, but thanks a lot for taking time out for us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Abid. It's been a pleasure.
So let's jump in right away. And the first question is, how has iQIYI's OTT content strategy adapted to the post-pandemic world?
Okay, I think it's no secret, that iQIYI sort of development boomed up during that pandemic period, and then post-pandemic, because of that deluge of content production that was going on and put on hold, so a lot of things were, almost like a snowball situation where we were also having a lack of content that we could license, and also not another secret that we work with TV3 on our content. And in that situation, we decided why not we try our own productions. So we didn't want to start big. We started small to test the market, see what was lacking on our side as a team, how do we cater to the audience needs and all that. And with that data, we decided to re-strategize, and hence this year in 2024, we have those 12 titles which we announced at ATF.
Yeah, that's incredible actually. So what are your unique challenges in producing premium drama series?
Well, I think firstly, I would like to say that it's not really premium that I'm after. I don't really do premium, but what we do is try to craft stories that has an elevation from what we usually see on TV. So we provide things that you may not necessarily see on TV. So, and part of that challenge is like whether you draw the line between having a good cost ratio and a good, art-worthy kind of story and a good narrative, right? So that it comes down to getting good collaborations with our partners. And that's where the biggest challenge is, because a lot of our partners have been around for decades, producing for FTAs and cable. And so being not to say being told, but being challenged in a way to do something else that's different or following a set of processes made the collaboration a bit difficult. But I think we've come a long way with our production partners, and they sort of align with the vision that we have. So that is, I think, the main challenge. And then the other bigger challenge, I think, for me as a producer in the OTT front is, you look at FTA, you have a certain budget, you have a certain slate, belts that you have to produce and hours that you have to produce, and you do those productions, you release them, and that's it, man. People will watch, they come home from work, they switch it on, and they might go to the kitchen, start cutting some onions and everything, and it goes out, and then tomorrow Nelson says, hey, it's 100 million viewers. But on my side, the challenge is choice, man. Like, what is going to compel my viewer to go on their phone and make that conscious choice of watching it, right? So that's why we had to implement processes to ensure that every episode that we release could be a call to action for our viewers to go to the next episode.
So that means you're talking about 100,000 views. Coming to the 100,000 views show Rampas Cintaku, which like what an astounding success for iQIYI. What was the insight into this astounding success? How did it become so big?
Wow, I don't think there's one particular thing that I can attribute it to, but okay, let me see if I can give you some backstory to it. So when I got the data from those from iQIYI, my colleagues in China, I was very curious, like how did that thing come out? But But in terms of the thinking or the thought process with this title, we stumbled upon this novel called Sugar Daddy slash Rampas Cintaku. It was written by Putri Jacaranda. So I took a read, and I thought, yeah, okay, it's interesting, but it's really just cliches, that damsel in distress, and then finding out that she doesn't have a free lunch. So, and I decided to do some research. Like, what if I just put a spin on it? Like, what if I put Zep's spin on it? So I did my research, and I discovered, dude, there's like a whole network of sugar mummies, man. Like, if you go and do like a Telegram groups, and I was like shocked, right, at the amount of these kind of things that are happening under our nose. And from there, I think it's the genesis of the idea lah. So I thought, okay, this is a chance to try something different. So I said, why don't we approach it from a masculine point of view, right? What if a guy who was seduced into this dark world of luxury and the easy money because he was struggling, and would he stay there in that life, or would he still go back to the faith that is always try to keep him on track? And in doing so, he stuck to his faith, as you know, for season 1, and really found true love with the Datin. And likewise, the Datin was also scarred by having her husband cheat on her lah. So I guess it's understanding what would our audiences want to see in a character's transformation. And maybe, I'm not saying that that's what I'm going to attribute it to, but I guess if we tried something different, provide something that can showcase a transformation in a character, that's why they wanted to see that. They went through the journey of that 14 episodes to watch it.
Well, I think the numbers speaks for themselves, and the numbers are saying that it's one of the best shows being created last year. So how are genre bending and bold storylines being received by the local Malaysian audience?
Well, generally, I think we all know this, that the market gravitates to a lot of family drama, young adult, and romance being the key common denominator lah. But I think we as producers, not just the OTT, even in the FTAs and cable, we take our audiences for granted. We think that's what they want to watch, and we produce this stuff and then wonder why they are not watching this whole thing, right? We take for granted that they need to be sheltered. But I think we're in an era where the audience can make their own decision on how deep the story is or how dark the story is, and make their own decision whether they like it or not. I guess, not to say understanding it, but in knowing that, we try to tell bolder stories, like things that can actually do happen in Malaysia, and then just reflect that as a daily experience that any Malaysian would have gone through. But again, the strategic thinking in the creative process is, what is it that's going to tie, pull the heartstrings? It's always matters of the heart. And then how else can you present matters of the heart in a different subgenre? Like, so for me, if you were going to change something, for instance, like when Rome went through that drastic change, it's going to be riots, man, everywhere. So I figured, yeah, we're going to give you the change, right? The audience wants this change, but let's give them in small doses. Give them familiarity, but introduce them to subgenres like thriller and horror within the context of romance, and see how that goes. And I think that's working out for us.
But considering Malaysia's strict censorship policy, how far can you push the envelope with these bold storylines?
For me, as a commissioner, as a producer from the other side of the spectrum, I think it's my personal philosophy that I go and tell these producers to not censor themselves, because that limits the way they can tell the story. So I allow them to go. Most of the time, they come back with over-the-top stuff. But then we look at it, okay, where is the over-the-top stuff? And then try to rein them back into what is going to justify those acts or those scenes or concepts that will make the story good lah. So from there, we know 99% of the time when we go through that process and we come back, a lot of what they wanted to have freedom for, they realize they don't need it actually. So it's not so much about having the freedom to just show anything we want, but what is the justification of having such scenes.
There has to be substance,
Yeah,
behind the
substance, yeah,
story.
exactly.
You just can't do it for the heck of doing
Exactly.
it. Right?
Yeah.
So how significant are the Malay subscribers to iQIYI Malaysia, and what are their expectations?
The Malay subscribers are quite a significant part of demographic on our platform, right? I think they make up about 75% of our total viewership.
Wow.
And what's more interesting is that out of the 75%, 25% of those are actually watching Chinese content. And we knew this by just looking at how much subtitles are being requested.
So these are the C dramas.
Yeah, the C dramas.
Wow.
So that was fascinating to me, man, even looking at the data. Yeah.
Well, they're just craving for good stories. Whether
Yeah, exactly. They're just craving for good stories. So then it begs the question, right? How can a Chinese drama, still find an attraction to our Malay audience? Because it still falls down in the matter of the heart, right?
Yeah.
It's human stories just told presented in a different way, whether it's period drama or fantasy or whatnot.
A good story is a good story.
A good story is a good story, yeah.
Are more audiences in Malaysia willing to pay for premium Malay content right now?
We're seeing a trend. It's growing, but we don't think it's a big number yet at this point of time. I think it's also got to do with the economy. Number one, number two, and I think number two is bigger for me in a sense where access to content has always been the biggest driver to why a content gets success. And it's also the biggest reason why piracy is so high, because the access to a particular content is very difficult, right? And our audiences are not going to pay. But if you can give them the access, if you can provide the audiences with a value that they can get from, then chances are you might change their mindset, and then that will make them start to pay for something that's more premium. But right now we're doing it the other way around. We just say, oh, this is a great piece of content, pay for it. You can't do that, I think, for me personally. So that's why we try to approach every original as something that is going to provide value to you entertainment-wise, and gives you that feeling where, you know what, I think I don't mind spending this money to subscribe because I really love what they do.
And what are the trends you're observing among Malaysian subscribers viewing overseas, these boiler dramas?
Okay, let's put facts as facts. This is Malaysia. There's no way in hell that we as an OTT are going to go and venture into BL kind of content, right? And as producers, we all have to abide by the 3 R's, the no-nos of the 3 R's: religion, royalty, and race, right? It doesn't state where the black and white line is between BL and GL or whatnot. But then you have this overarching thing that it's got to do with religion. So therein lies the challenge of going into this kind of contents. But there is a trend. The trend, though, is in more of other networks, not ours. There is a growing smaller trend on our VIP usage, but as an OTT who regulates ourselves, those content will never surface on our free tier.
Well, that's good to know, because majority are your
exactly. Yeah. So we have to respect the culture, the faith and all that.
So how do you balance local culture, like you're talking about the cultural nuances? How do you balance local cultural nuances with the demand of global audience?
Anything that goes global, right, I think is something that's set in a universal tone, right? It is matters of the human psyche, right? What drives a person or a human to do something? What is the motivation of a particular character to go from zero to hero, or to go from anti-hero to lovable character? So the balance for us is when we try to and make something go global, is that universal element that we have to make sure is in there. But at the same time, inculcating, or rather putting in our local nuances and culture, is something that has to come across as more discovery and educational. So it opens up a lot of things, a lot of awareness globally that, okay, this is Malaysia. They actually have really cool stuff here, but how come no one's talking about it? I think that's how we can balance that.
And so what is your strategy, as in what is iQIYI's strategy to retain and attract at the same time strong Malay subscribers?
Like I think we don't try to reinvent the wheel. Like as any OTT, as any network or cable would say, oh, we're all going to provide differentiation. Like, okay, so what? Like, I think at the heart of the matter is we have to listen to our audience, lah. And that is the one sole strategy I take on very deeply with my team of producers in-house, is we listen to them and then provide them with something fresh. So I've subscribed to this notion of same but different, whereby every story that we try to make different of must have a sense of familiarity. So the story will capture them, and then they will see the presentation done in a different form. So it's the same thing. I've seen this before, but why am I gravitated to it? Like, what is different about it? I like it because it's different. So they don't really feel it. But the gravitational pull is that thing that they all can relate to on everyday life, right? Which is family matters, romance, the struggle of making ends meet. Those kind of things really push the Malay psyche, because as a mass market audience, if you think about the demographic, the biggest market there are guys that are not too affluent, which is why I bank on a lot about access, right? Providing them access to entertainment that is easy. Then I guess the mindset can shift. But for now, we're maintaining our strategy like how we are for the 12th, and I think even for the next year, we're probably going to do the same thing.
That's brilliant. But how do you plan to continue differentiating the iQIYI content offering from other streaming platforms?
Yeah, like I said, it boils down to what you have as a resource. That's number one, right? Number two, everybody's providing a differentiation. Like, is different going to bring your audience there? Maybe. But what is that difference that's going to make them stay? I guess for me, the differentiation comes into the approach we take in our productions. Like, what kind of processes do we need to make sure that we have a level of production quality that the audiences will not question? Most of the times, right, when we watch something that comes out from anywhere, let's say FTA, they have their own constraints in budget. And the things that get picked up of is the technical aspects of things. So as producers, and you talk about differentiation and quality, those are the things that you need to touch first. Make sure the producers are fixing those things so that we have people that's fixing the storyline. So that's great. The mindset need to shift about what is the output quality like. Would you, as a producer producing this, go to iQIYI, pay for it to watch it? If you're not willing to, then why are you serving me that crap?
And in that notion, what do you think about iQIYI's Malay language originals will have on the global perception of Malaysian content? Now that your tentpole show is now being shown in China, Rampas Cintaku is going to be screened in China.
Yeah.
What do you think what's the perception and what the quality as well as audience's reaction to a Malaysian?
Well, I am very optimistic on that front. I think it's going to be a big impact to our industry. We just won't see it in the next 1-2 years. It's something that's going to be a snowball effect that will happen within the next 5-6 years. But where I see the biggest upside for us as an industry in Malaysia is the fact that you are now opening yourself as a producer to 120 million viewership possibility.
That's a huge one.
Right? On the other upside, you're also opening tourism opportunities for such a big market to come to. We already see that happening, that China tourists are coming to Malaysia. But now we're trying to do the other way around. Like, if Malaysian content can travel to China, there is a plethora of Muslim communities within China that we haven't tapped yet. And that's how I'm proposing to get our content out. Get to something that has a common denominator, and that's how our content will grow. And when that starts to happen, we as producers then have opportunity to then do better quality shows with better budgets, because we have a bigger market.
Yeah.
I mean,
that makes means more sense financially. I mean, to to put in more money on the content when
Correct.
it's traveling to a big audience.
Exactly.
And I think that will benefit a lot more for the content creators, as in collaborators in Malaysia,
Yeah.
for a bigger audience there.
I think it will, man. Like part of the other side projects that I'm working towards now, closely with Finas and iQIYI, is to try and develop a talent program where we can do an exchange and get Chinese talent to come in here to share, knowledge sharing, get our side here to go to China to do productions and just share that talent. There's a possibility of us probably going into co-productions within the next 2-3 years. Like I'm saying, big productions lah, not the smaller ones.
Their scale is huge.
Their scale is huge, man. Like it will be a while before we reach those budgets.
The stuff I've seen like a few years back, and the set design and production quality is like
it's
huge.
Yeah, but it boils down to the market, man. Like they have that market and that appetite to feed, right? So they have to deliver within that sense.
So can you discuss any upcoming collaborations with local creators or production houses?
Sure.
For your 2024 slate.
Sure. I think I mentioned that we have this 12 going on, and in ATF I mentioned that we're also working with Infinitus, one of the largest production houses here. Gaya's been a tremendous support and partner. I think I want to speak about Restu, which is an amazing, heartwarming story. So I'm just going to digress slightly. So part of that differentiation is that we're providing content that is different, right? So you as an audience coming in here, you watch Rampas Cintaku, it's like, holy smoke, so this is a story about a sugar mommy and it's all this daring stuff happening in, but the daring is not to just be daring for daring's sake, right? It's just, that's what happens in those world. Then we take you into this new world called Restu, where we explore the struggles of the modern Malay man being a single dad. Now he's challenged with the fact that he has to bring up a daughter who's hitting puberty. And in those challenges, he's going through his own personal dilemma of whether he needs to find her a mom or does he need to find himself a wife. So it's very heartwarming. And in his journey to find his love and a mother for her, he can only do that by her blessing. So I'm really looking forward to that one. That one drops in our ideal Fitri slate.
Oh, that's quite a heartwarming story. I'm quite looking forward to that one.
Yeah, definitely going to call you.
So how does iQIYI's approach towards content curation to cater to the diverse tastes of the audience which they have on the platform?
Well, like any other platform, we look at the data and what people are watching, but we don't curate per se. There's no massive or intricate curation that we do. Those are things that we are taking step by step to do right now. But based on your viewing behavior, we will push content that we think you might like. So nothing too crazy about, but if you're talking about curating content in a slate perspective, I go back to the fact that every quarter there's something that our audiences can look forward to, because it's a big title that pushes, it's a bit more thought-provoking to the audience, but at the same time gives you a nice return or a feel-good factor once the whole show is finished, right? And then we have the other content that we're testing out the subgenres on. So that's how we're curating the 2024 slate. So the lower tier, quicker productions are, we're testing horror in there, we're testing psychological thriller in there, really content that I think you may not be able to see on FTAs but done tastefully that you won't feel the cringe
Oh, that's the way to go, because that's the small space which is there and it's underserved.
Yeah.
And I think
there is an underserved market, and we're testing that out slowly. There's always the commercial challenge of like, who do you actually want to compete with, and then who are your true competitors? And it's fun. While it's fun to compete, I think it really boils down to collaboration. I think as an industry, we all have a part to play. FTAs, the cable guys, the OTTs, we all have the part to play to grow up. Once the ecosystem grows to become a mature ecosystem, everybody wins. Like, why do you want to pie to yourself? Yeah, so that's how I see it.
You mentioned the analytics part of it, and so, and how does the viewer feedback and analytics, play uh, a very significant role in shaping iQIYI's content strategy?
Yeah, I think it does shape our decisions quite heavily. I think on that front, I can take or rather give you the example of Rampas Cintaku season 2, right? Based on the data that we've got, we knew that it's definitely a title that can go on and can be very successful. So that's the data side. Then it comes down to the ingenuity or creative experience side, right? Do we really go down to the same track of thing? What do our audiences want? Which characters do we then follow through? We know everybody wants to follow Datin Safia, but what is her thread then? What is her story? So from there, because we didn't have source material, we got MIG to come back in to work with our internal script doctors and devise the story that is going to drive our audiences crazy when they hear what Datin Safia has to go through.
Oh boy. I saw the first episode. Trust me, I'm hooked. I will be finishing it off soon.
Yeah. Well, for me, there are points where I cringe, but it's a story where I think it needs to be told.
Yeah.
People suffer.
But people are ready actually for that.
People are ready, and there are people suffering in that world that we are trying to show people. So hopefully, it lends some lessons to those stuck in that world to come out.
So how do you see the role of streaming platforms in supporting and promoting the local creative industry?
I think we have a big role to play in terms of how much we can grow the appetite for different kinds of content. As part of my personal ambition to also showcase really different kind of content, good storytelling that they may not have a commercial viability, but we're not at that stage at this point. But if we all, like for me, props to View for doing what they do. They're targeting something and they're doing things that are different. As a creative, personally, though, that's the thing that I aspire to want to achieve in terms of their narratives and the storyline and the budgets that they get. In terms of if I put my commercial hat on, it may not be good for us as iQIYI. So therefore, we have to look at existing producers that have been producing for decades for FTAs and how do they elevate their workflow or their style of productions, their offering, that they may one day become able to then produce something that's global. Because what's the next step, right? Why produce to be what's the word, like a jago kampong when you can, the world's your oyster, so let's get them there lah.
What is your vision for the Malaysian content on iQIYI and other international platforms?
We are, and I think we still hope to be the beloved home of Asian content lah. Right now, I think there's a lot more stories to tell. It's just we need to dig deep as Malaysian producers, and my vision is to make sure that we can balance commercial viability with the arts. We have the artists, man. Like everyone's an artist, everyone's talented to do that. But why is there a blockage in getting that commercial success? And that's what I'm trying to do on a bigger scale. But in terms of iQIYI, my biggest mandate right now is to make sure that we become the home of beloved Asian content.
Inshallah, that will happen soon. What are your we are seeing some great branded content coming on iQIYI. Last year we saw the Grab shows which you did
with you, man. Yeah, that was
subtle plug.
Yeah, plug it. Don't be ashamed. That's a good stuff, man. So again, okay, we can go to curation in that sense, or let's call this commercial curation, right? There's content to be made. Everyone in the ecosystem wants to use content to drive some point of awareness, right? Whether it's their brand, their value, whatnot. And iQIYI is that platform where we're ever evolving, right? Which is why we tested out that. And when Grab had that problem, that sort of PR issue, they came to us like, what can we do to make people know that this is not who we are actually? So then we looked to you, and we went through that 2 productions, which I don't know if you felt very painful
No,
working
but
with me.
we won an award, the Asian Academy for that.
Yeah, so that's what we do lah. Like I was telling you, internally is what we do is we try to get you. So I think you went through that process with me to understand that commercial mindset and how do we elevate things, right? Really proud that you guys won an award for that.
Thank you for the opportunity for that show, and
both
for the
both shows,
scripted and non-scripted
both shows, yeah. And I think the biggest value is also to grab, like they managed to change that PR mess around.
Yeah, I hope means in that space you guys collaborate more with brands and
yeah, we do want to collaborate with brands more. We think that is the next phase of ad spends lah. I think brands have very big opportunity at pushing their awareness, their reach further by really digging deep into the emotions. And I think they need to also be a bit more brave in terms of how their brands will be perceived. Because at the end of the day, it's not what they tell their consumers, it's what the consumers tell the other consumers.
yeah.
So they should take a chance. And I think now is the really ripe time to do that.
That brings me to the last question. Last year we saw a lot of content. What was your top 5 content which you watched or consumed?
Oh damn! If I can find the timeline. Okay, this is a bit. It's a bit random. But I rewatched Fight Club. Amazing.
It's a movie for all
it's for all time,
ages.
man. It's for all time, right? I've been going into documentaries, man. I think Beckham was really done really well. I was in love with Anthony Bourdain's documentary and Jim Carrey's documentary. And I think the latest one was Leave the World Behind by Sami Ismail.
Yep.
That was fun.
That was
Brilliant.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Zeb, for coming and having this conversation. It means a lot to us, and hope we can collaborate in the near future like we did last year. And all the best for Rampas Cintaku Season 2. And we look forward for all the new stuff which you guys have been working on iQIYI.
Definitely, man. Thanks for having me on board. Really appreciate it. Let's see what we can do together, man.
Yeah,
Soon.
great. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, man.
Cheers. Bye.
Today's conversation highlights the Malaysian creative content industry's immense potential and dynamic nature. With platforms like iQIYI pioneering bold and innovative storytelling, we are seeing a significant shift in how local content is perceived and consumed domestically and globally. As we continue to witness the growth of streaming services and their impact on local narratives, it's clear that the bar for quality and creativity in Malaysian content has been set high. The success of Rampas Cintaku and the anticipation for its second season are testament to this. It's an exciting time for Malaysian creators and audiences alike. I'm Abid and this has been What's Stewing. Keep stewing till we meet in the next episode.